All right, I think we can start. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome warmly to our latest webinar on exploitation. My name is Tanja Suni. I lead the impact and exploitation in the Clean Energy Transition Partnership. Our goal is to provide our projects, our applicants, and the whole knowledge community with the tools and networks they need to translate their innovations into meaningful societal and market impacts. We have had 4 previous webinars, and there we have explored design thinking, validation with stakeholders, commercialization, and impact, especially concepts such as the key exploitable results. And today we move on to the next step, exploitation. How to effectively build on project outcomes to maximize commercial uptake, policy relevance, and societal value, whatever impact you're looking for. And today's session is again expertly crafted by Antonello Fiorucci and Roselina Di Santo from Meta Group. They bring extensive experience and insight into maximizing the impact of innovation. As always, this webinar will be recorded and made available on CETPartnership's YouTube channel and later in the CETPartnership Impact Library. And this way you'll have access to all the resources in this series. The links for both are in the chat right now. And we ask you to keep your microphones and videos off unless you are instructed otherwise. Without further ado, I'll turn things over to Antonello. So enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Tanja. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you this our experience on impact and on exploitation strategy. I hope that you can enjoy basically these 2 hours together. There will be some exercises. These exercises will be basically carried out through Slido, no worry. So take into consideration to have your smartphone in your hands when will be the case, and we will start with a quick presentation of who we are and with our experience. Our company, Meta Group, is on the markets for more than 30 years. And basically, our main goal is to try to create a bridge in between the knowledge and the market. I would say in between the knowledge and the use of research results. And through this extensive experience, we could have a strong opportunity to become the most important contractor of the European Union on exploitation and dissemination. And we are currently the managing partner of the Booster, which is the EU-funded, European Commission-funded initiative for supporting all the funded projects under framework programs for implementing their dissemination and exploitation strategies. Thanks to this opportunity, we had the chance to follow more than 1,800 research consortia since 2012, and more than 16,000 research and R&D projects and R&D project participants, organization, SME, universities, research centers, industries, and all kind of policymakers and all kind of different actors involved in EU-funded research projects. Let's start saying what will be the objectives for today. And we have to say that this is not the first webinar, as Tanya said, together. So we will try to reconcile what we are going to share today with what we have already shared in our previous webinar. And basically, the objectives will be to deepen the understanding of how to translate our KERs, our key exploitable results, our tangible results from the research activities in effects and impact in the real life through an exploitation strategy. So the focus will be on the exploitation strategy. There will be the possibility, the room for exploring tools and approach, I would say, for designing, implementing, and monitoring exploitation plans, which should be designed on some key exploitable results, some KERs, and there should be the room for facilitating, we can say, a learning exchange, we can say a peer exchange through different case studies, which will be basically the baseline for the exercise that we are going to share together. Let's try to go on, taking into consideration what we discussed in our first webinar. Let me say that if you have any question, feel free to interrupt me and to share. Okay, I will be more than happy to interact with you. If we have to recap from the webinar one, from the first webinar that we had together, in this first webinar, the focus was on the main concepts related to the exploitation, to impact. And I would like to recall some of these concepts, at least the ones that from our point of view are the main, we can say, crucial for preparing a sound exploitation plan. We can say that our, let's call it, superhero here is the key exploitable results, the KER. And when we talk about a key exploitable result, we are talking about a research output, and we are used to say that during a research activity there are a lot of KERs. Nevertheless, just some of the results that we develop during the project lifetime can be defined as key exploitable results. Let's say that we have a key exploitable results when we go far, we can say far beyond the state of the art. We have a key exploitable results when there is someone in our partnership with a clear intention of using this result after the project end, directly or indirectly. And what is more, we have a key exploitable result when basically through that result we can respond to specific needs from a specific target group. So if we can match these three, let's call them conditions, we are in front of a key exploitable results. And this is the starting point of any possible reasoning about exploitation. The second key concept that it must be recalled is the outcome. And basically, we are in front of an outcome when we can say that there is an effect deriving from dissemination and exploitation. Okay, so during the project lifetime and also beyond the project lifetime, when we can carry out dissemination and exploitation activities. And basically, the effect of the dissemination and exploitation is the outcome. Now, if we would like to be more direct in saying what an outcome can be, from my point of view, we are in front of an outcome when we can have a clear adoption of the key exploitable result from the specific target group which we try to address, okay, through the development of our KER. So let's say that the adoption should be the effect that we achieve thanks to the dissemination and the exploitation activities during the lifetime, during the project lifetime. Let's share an example. If I have a specific, let's call it software, and I disseminate this software to a specific target group of software house, and I start exploiting it, preparing all the material for securing the use of this software, and I secure with the software house, for example, a licensing agreement. I provide all the potential side documents and instructions and training for allowing the software house to use my software. In that case, basically, as a result of dissemination and exploitation, the software house will adopt the new software, and this adoption will be the outcome, okay, deriving from dissemination and exploitation. And when we talk about the outcome, we have a short to medium time scope in front of us. Let's say by the end of the project, 1-2 years after the end of the project, not something beyond this time scope. Then we have this mythological, we can say, concept, the impact, which is quite easy to understand, I would say, because when we talk about impact, we talk about the benefit on the European citizens from a societal, from an economic, from a scientific point of view. Basically, an impact should be the long-term effect enabled by the outcome, because if we have no adoption, we have no use. If we have no use, we can say that we have no impact at all, we have no benefit, okay? And basically the impact is the effect, as I said before, the benefit deriving from the use of the KER that we developed during the project lifetime. This is a long-term effect, and we can say that this is the final benefit that we should try to enable to unfold at the end of the process. Then we discussed a little bit about exploitation and dissemination. So about the differences in between these two important typologies of actions. And when we talk about exploitation, we are talking about use. or facilitation of the use of the key exploitable results. So the subject here is the key exploitable results, as I said before, our superhero. And when we talk about exploitation, we are focusing on how to use or facilitate the use of the key exploitable result. When we talk about dissemination, we are talking about the activity that we carry out, that we implement in order to inform a specific target group of potential adopters that we have developed a clear key exploitable result that can somehow address and solve the problems that that specific potential adopters is suffering from. Okay, in both cases we are talking about the key exploitable results. On the one side, we are using it or we are facilitating the use. In the other side, we are informing the potential target group of adopters that we have developed the key exploitable results that could somehow solve better than the alternative solutions available on the shelf the problem that that specific group is suffering from. We are talking about something different when we talk about dissemination from communication, because communication, just to recall the differences in between dissemination and communication, is promoting the project, talking about the project to a general public. So there is not the focus on the specific potential adopters of the results. And when we talk about communication, we can talk about the project, the results to a general public, to different audiences, which are not, as I said before, the ones which should somehow be activated for adopting the result. Then we have this concept that I prefer absolutely in comparison with, for example, another word, stakeholder, which is the target groups that I have somehow to activate, to empower. Because as we said last time, using the word stakeholder could be, in some cases, a little bit confusing. When we talk about target groups, we are talking about specific groups which should be somehow activated for specific activities. So the target groups for dissemination can be primary or secondary. The primary target group for dissemination basically are those that we have to achieve in order to secure the adoption and the use of key exploitable results. When we talk about stakeholders, we are talking about a more confused, we can say, group where there can be a lot of different actors inside. Okay, when we talk about different target groups, if we are talking about exploitation, we have a specific group of potential users and adopters of the result. If we are talking dissemination target groups, we have a clear identification of those that can adopt or facilitate the adoptions or push for the adoptions. So we have a clear understanding of what we are talking about. And so this is the reason why we prefer to talk about target groups instead of talking about stakeholders. And then we have this concept, which is quite familiar to those writing and running Horizon Europe projects, and this will be also the last exercise for today, which is basically the pathway towards impact. So how to cover the distance in between the key exploitable results and the benefits enabled by basically the use of the key exploitable results. All these key concepts must be somehow included in an exploitation strategy and exploitation plan. And when we talk about an exploitation strategy and exploitation plan, we are talking about a plan, obviously, talking about how to create a benefit, how to define how to prepare the use, how to set in the ground of the use of a key exploitable result, which could generate an impact in the real world. And let's say about let me share something. When we prepare an exploitation plan, the risk we can say just behind the corner, just around the corners, is always to prepare something that clarify what will be the activities during the project lifetime. Okay. In my idea, preparing an exploitation plan means explaining what will happen after the project, okay? Obviously recalling what we have implemented during the project lifetime, but what will happen after the project in order to secure use. And we share in this slide an example of a potential exploitation strategy plan. If you develop a new solar panel technology, the exploitation strategy define how this new solution will be taken up by manufacturers, which can be identified as, for example, adopters, who will adopt how this novel solution will be adopted by energy providers and used by the energy providers. And this is a little bit too far for an exploitation plan, but eventually how the consumer could start benefiting from this novel solution. And the key elements of an exploitation plan should somehow identify, this is the most important point, we can say the right target adopters, because if we fail in identifying the adopters, the right adopters of our solution, we hardly can secure the use of our solution, basically stopping the process which should take our key exploitable result to use and to basically impact generation. So the identification of the real of the right target adopters is one of the most challenging tasks that we have to cope with during the project lifetime. Then we have to define a use model. So how this key exploitable result could be used by these adopters. We have to understand, to assess the potential readiness and risk. There is a mic open. I would ask you to, thank you so much. There is a clear assessment of the readiness and the risk related to the use. Pay attention that when we talk about the readiness and the use and the risk related to the use, we are not talking about the risks related to the implementation of a project, but we are talking about the risk related to the use and to the adoption of our key exploitable result. And then beyond the plan for adopting the solution, there should be also at least outlined a potential set of actions, a roadmap for scaling the results, scaling the scale of the adoption, and basically through this scaling up of the adoption, a strategy for unleashing all the potential of our results. Basically, an exploitation plan is an exploitation strategy is all around basically a clear pathway towards impact, a clear logic behind this journey, which is challenge-based, problem-based. So we have a clear challenge, we have a clear problem. This challenge, this problem is clearly identified by call for proposals. The response to this problem, to this challenge, is basically inside the project development. So we identify the proper solution, the proper strategy in order to face, to confront effectively with the challenge and the problem that we have in front of us. And during the project lifetime, we should be able to develop a result. These results basically will be, if we can say that the conditions that we recalled before are somehow matched, should be basically selected as a key exploitable result. If we can select these key exploitable results, we should somehow start treating it, we can say, through exploitation and dissemination activities. And through these exploitation and dissemination activities, we could achieve the outcome. So in our perspective, we could secure the adoption by a clear target group of potential adopters of the key exploitable results. When we, let's say two things here, because we must be extremely clear now. We can say that there is a clear control of the process until this point, because once the KER is adopted, basically, and if we say that the adoption is outside the partnership, the clear control over the key exploitable result and over the process is over. Okay, and when we have to describe this process, for example, in an application, we must be extremely clear that, or better, we must be extremely credible when we talk about credibility of the pathway, that all the steps that we force, basically, that we have that should have been taken have been somehow achieved their objective. So we must clarify that we develop properly a result. We must clarify that a set of actions, exploitation and dissemination actions, have been carried out, and that these actions somehow could achieve the proper target group, and that these actions could somehow secure the use of the result. So we must be extremely credible in explaining step by step all the process which secure the use of our key exploitable results beyond the project ends. From this time, from this moment on, the control on the process is beyond is beyond our basically possibilities. And what should happen now? There should be a clear replication of the user. There should be a clear scale up of the user. There could be some scientific advancement that amplify the significance for the adopters and for the target groups of the benefits that basically the novel solution can somehow secure. And in this case, on long term, we could say that we can enable and impact a benefit on societal and scientific and economic point of view. Basically, this is the logic behind the pathway towards impact. And we have to explain all the different steps that we have to take from basically the KER development to the implementation of dissemination exploitation activities in order to achieve the outcome. And we must outline a potential benefit deriving from the use of our key exploitable result in order to say this could be the impacts that we can credibly say that can be generated by our project and our key exploitable results. Also because if we would like to understand so in more in details the story that we have to tell in our exploitation strategy, in our exploitation plan, we should somehow focus on the value that we can generate through our key exploitable result, because everything is focused on the value that we can generate through our key exploitable results, because we can effectively match societal, economic, and environmental and scientific needs. So this is the starting point. We must have a clear problem-driven approach. So we must somehow have a completely different approach, moving from a solution-led exploitation to a problem-led exploitation. So I'm not developing something because my research is curiosity-driven. I'm developing something because my research is impact-driven. So I would like to generate benefits. I would like to match societal, environmental, economic challenges, and starting from this approach, I'm going to align my activities to these needs. And I don't know what happened. Sorry. I'm going to share once more. I go on. Sorry, I don't know what, probably. Here we are. I think that you can see my screen properly.
Yes, we can.
Yes, and I was saying that I have to align my activities to these kind of needs. And in order to generate value, I must be extremely clear in understanding who can be the so-called problem owner. Okay, who is the target group sharing the needs for different solutions, for different approaches, for different activities to be somehow implemented in order to cope with this need. And here we must be extremely clear in defining the so-called unique value proposition, UVP, which basically is the reason why a potential adopter should adopt our solution instead of keep using the solution available on the shelf, alternative solution available on the shelf. So we must be extremely clear in saying that we are better in doing a specific action, we are cheaper, we are cleaner, we are faster, we are more precise in comparison with the alternative solutions available on the shelf. And obviously, what is important here is that if we fail in identifying, as this is what I said before, in identifying the real adopter, we will fail also in identifying the real unique, the proper unique value proposition. Because if I think, let's share an example here. I am the developer of a new device for treating some typologies of cancer. Okay, if I think that my adopter is the hospital or the research centers, I think that this kind of adopter could be somehow interested in my solution because I can solve the problem of the number of treatments or diagnostic activities that can be somehow carried out in 24 hours. The problem is that neither the hospitals nor the hospitals, neither the diagnostic centers are the real adopters of this new device. We must somehow target those producing this device, and we have to cope with their problems, which could be, for example, the identification of new softwares that can allow these actors to work with different standards, that can allow these actors to work with cheaper materials without affecting the quality and the precision of the diagnostic activities. So the real target group is not the hospital, but is the producer of medical devices. In this case, having a clear identification of the target group of adopter allow us to define a clear, unique value proposition, which will be the reason why someone could somehow start adopting our solution instead of using the alternative solution available on the shelf. And this is what we are talking about. We must work when we develop our key exploitable results with a clear demand-driven and problem-led approach. And it's also the reason why that having a clear identification of the right adopter could allow us to develop a key exploitable result which is more ready for basically matching the needs of our adopters. And how can we somehow work with this perspective? The first basically activity that we have to take into consideration is to involve a sort of co-creation of the key exploitable result, the potential early adopters of our solutions. So if we can have a clear identification of early adopters, these early adopters can provide us with feedback that can somehow align the solution that we are developing with their needs. And they can start validating our solution with a perspective of adoption of this solution. If we have, for example, an early adopter, both in our partnership or as an advisory board member saying, okay, you are developing this solution. This is exactly what I'm looking for. The only point is that now the solution is functioning with this criteria, with this procedure. From my point of view, you can modify it through these different features, and if you apply this feedback on your solution, what you are developing will be completely consistent with my needs and with my expectation. This can be a real added value in having a demand-driven, a problem-led, we can say an impact-driven logic, even applied, also applied to the key exploitable result development. And then basically you should secure the use. If you start working with this approach, if you start involving the potential early adopters in your development phase, if you start outlining the future use of your key exploitable result with the support from the right early adopters, basically you could minimize, I would say, the risk of failure related to the adoption of your key exploitable result, and somehow you could start working with a clear adoption-oriented mode in order to secure the use of your key exploitable result. Basically, in this way, having a clear understanding of the needs and the problem, having a clear identification of the problem owners, having a clear feedback from the early adopters, involving them in the co-development process, generating a clear, unique value proposition for your key exploitable result, targeting the right potential adopters, means minimize the failure of not adoption. And at the end of the day, this means creating a real value behind and so a real potential behind the key exploitable results. All these different issues should somehow be, we can say, included in an exploitation plan. Obviously.
Can I ask you, Antonello, at this point?
Sure.
Can I ask you? Sure. So getting feedback from the early adopters is key, you say, but is this feedback something that you recommend the project gets during the project already and not after? So early on in the project, before the key exploitable result is even ready or finalized? Or how can you speak a little bit about that? Because that is sometimes something that I often hear, that people think, okay, we will contact the early adopters when our result is finalized, so at the end of the project, which to me sounds a little bit like maybe a missed opportunity.
Yes, absolutely, Tanya. This is a key point. From my point of view, the sooner you contact the early adopters, the better is, because this is what I call having a clear problem-driven approach, demand-driven approach, because the feedback that an early adopter can provide you with is crucial for developing a product which is not developed starting from your point of view, but is developed starting from the early adopters' point of view. And
right.
And being the exploitation something connected with use, I must secure that the key exploitable result that I am developing will be what should be used by my early adopters. If the early adopters or the adopters can be the potential ones, are contacted after the project lifetimes, and I go to a specific target group and I say, okay, this is my solution. Okay, yes, it is a good solution, but from my point of view, the usability, the specific features that you develop are not really consistent with my needs.
Exactly.
Okay, so this is the reason why I'm not sure to adopt this. Okay, exploitation and adoptions, we can say, become something very, very difficult to to implement. If we have a key exploitable result responding to the real needs of my potential adopters, means that I can secure the adoption of my key exploitable result after the project ends. Or, as I said before, I can at least reduce or minimize the failure of adoption after the project ends of my key exploitable result. This was, we can say, this ex post exploitation strategy. It's something that was really common, okay? And the problem here is that we have to achieve a shift in the mindsets connected with exploitation. You must thinking at exploitation at the beginning of the project as a process that helps you in developing the solution, not only in securing an ex post use of the solution. Exploitation is something that helps you in develop or co-develop together with the potential adopters of your solution, the solution itself. So this is crucial that there is a clear, as I said before, identification of the potential adopters, a clear involvement during the project lifetime, during the development of the key exploitable result for develop the most consistent key exploitable result with the potential needs expressed, shared by our potential adopters. And this is extremely important. So the suggestion here, which is completely linked with the also with the slide, is always to have in-depth thinking about your potential adopters, understanding clearly the points in the value chain where your potential adopter is, because if you fail to select the real potential adopters, the risk can be that this is a potential user, but is not the adopters. So having a clear understanding of also the value chain where you are working, and involving the early adopters as soon as you can in the project activities. As I said before, the sooner the better.
Right.
I will also to say that they can be in the partnership, okay? They can be outside the partnership, but for example, in an advisory board, they can be also find the best solutions for involving the so-called problem owners, because they will be the ones validating the problems that you are addressing, the solution that you are developing, and the unique value proposition, the reason why they should somehow switch from the current alternatives to the future novel solution that you are developing. And in order to do that, it is extremely important to have a clear understanding of the different target groups. We are focusing on adopters, early adopters, users, and beneficiaries, and you have to think how to involve them and what can be the channels and we can say the different issues that can be somehow relevant for this kind of target groups. If we talk about early adopters, obviously the main focus that you have to cope with is having them during demo cases, gathering feedback from them, having a clear understanding of the return on investments. If you have to adopt something, you have to be extremely clear in saying, okay, you are adopting something that will solve your problem and can somehow be completely worth of the investment that you are carrying out. And there could be also the room for closing strategic partnership for furtherly develop the solution that you are working on. From a different point of view, we can find the users. As I said before, if I am a software house working on a new software for the traffic management on a city or a town, my potential user is not the driver inside here or her car, is the municipality which should somehow adopt the new software. So the car driver will be the user of the streets, okay, but the manager of the streets of the municipalities will be the main actor interested in having that kind of novel solution. Nevertheless, obviously there will be users involved, and a user can be extremely important in order to be involved in pilots, in testing of our activities, in also in that case in receiving, we can say, a second level of feedback. Obviously, the user could have a strong impact in usability focus of the new solution, the novel solution, and there could be somehow addressed through some training activities, dissemination and communication materials, and so on. Obviously, the users are not those investing money, are those effectively using the novel solution. And then there are the beneficiaries, which are those benefiting from the fact that you are implementing the new solution, the novel solution. And in that case, obviously, there should be clear what we are working on in terms of long-term value. There should be an impact storytelling, and so they are somehow the last step to take, okay, before achieving the impact. What is important in an exploitation strategy, an exploitation plan, is having a clear understanding of all these different target groups, which must be somehow focused in a different way. Beyond these core actors, we can have we have an exploitation ecosystem, and we must understand how this ecosystem somehow is shaped and how this ecosystem works. And being our activities connected with research, and we can develop also solutions with a technology readiness level which is not completely mature, we have to understand what kind of different actors we have to empower, to activate, to involve. And this could be the case of funders, people ready to invest on a low TRL solution, people ready to invest for establishing different vehicles for exploiting, for using a new solution. Let's think about a startup or a spin-off if we are in an academic environment. We are talking about early stage investor. We are talking about business angels. We are talking about different kind of early stage investors that can somehow be interested in supporting our process, our innovation process through participation in the funding of our solutions. Then we have to have clear in mind that we have to cope with also different actors, which are extremely important. Regulators, policymakers, I would say also people working on standards, okay? Because if we are not completely consistent on regulations, on standards, our novel solution cannot somehow be in place. And then we have other, for example, support organization, let's say association, other actors, for example, gathering consumers, that can also be extremely important for communication purposes, for promoting what we are done. Once we have clear these different ecosystem, we have to understand what can be the connections in between them, who is influencing whom, and what are the different dependencies, and extremely important, who is going to enable the scale up of my solution. So, for example, a funder can be an actor allowing the scaling up of my solution. Our regulators cannot do the same, but obviously I have to understand the different roles and the different connections in between all of these different actors. And obviously all these, both the connections, both the clear understanding of the ecosystem, allow us to understand clearly who is who in my exploitation projects. It allows me to understand where I have to allocate resources in order to secure my exploitation activities, and it allows me to minimize the risks connected with not considering a pivotal and a crucial target group that can be, on the other hand, extremely important for securing the future use of my solution, of my key exploitable results. So when I take into consideration the different target groups I have to cope with in my exploitation plan, all the different actors involved beyond the core actors. So this, let's call them secondary target group, where I can understand who can be crucial for implementing my exploitation activities. We are approaching, okay, we are approaching to the final definitions of all the elements that must be taken into consideration when I describe the use of my solutions and how this use can be somehow implemented, with a clear definition of the strategic fit. So I have to be clear on the different scenarios that should somehow be in front of my eyes after my solution is ready, and I should be extremely clear in saying where and how my solution, my key exploitable result, will be used, what kind of problem I am solving better than alternative solutions, and what can be the limits related to the introduction of the novel solution. Then I have to understand if I am ready, and so we have different points of view of this readiness. We can say something more internal of my solution. I am ready in terms of development of the solution. I am market ready, and this means I am compliant with all the needs connected with the market entry. I am compliant with standards. I am compliant with regulation. I have a clear sales network. I have a clear pricing policy. And then organization. I am ready for the use model that I have selected. I would like to provide this new solution as a service. Okay, I am ready to deliver the service. I have a clear organization for implementing my use model. All these issues must be somehow included in a exploitation strategy and exploitation plan. We must have a clear identification of the problem that we are addressing. We must have a clear identification of the adopters. We must have a clear identification of the unique value proposition. We must have a clear identification of the markets that we would like to enter on. And then we must be extremely clear in taking into consideration all these different issues. If we would like to say, if tomorrow someone knocks to my door, I am ready to make my solution available for being used. Okay, and then obviously, why all these issues really matter? Because through these different assessments, I can say that my solution is aligned to the context, legal context, technical context, standard context, and whatever, ethical context. It could be anticipate it could anticipate the adoption pathways, because basically, if I'm ready, I am not to correct what can be defined my pathways toward adoption and impact. This is what we were talking about together with Tanya before. So working on these issues during the project lifetime in order to be ready at the end of the project is crucial. And then obviously it avoids a lot of time and money wasting. Okay, so be ready for using the resources that we have in the proper way without wasting time, wasting money, and being out of money, out of time, out of resources when it is necessary. Okay. The last step before our, we can say, exercises, we must always be aware about what can be the requirements, and we look at the requirements in a positive way, so something that we have to be compliant with. So my solution must be developed in order to be consistent with the requirements from different point of view, and what can be the barriers that I have to be ready to cope with, that I can be ready to remove or prevent in order to make my solution really used. Okay, if I'm not basically ready in confronting with requirements and barrier, the risk is that my solution cannot be used at all, and no outcome, no impact will be generated. What kind of typologies, of requirements barrier we are talking about? Technical readiness, market readiness, regulatory environment, including standards, user behaviors. This is extremely important. This is the reason why before we said that users can be important even if they are not the adopter in providing feedback about what we are proposing. If we develop a solution which is completely different in terms of use from the solutions available on the shelf, and if this new solution modifies completely my working routine, the acceptance of the new solution can be not positive. Okay, and if it happens, the risk is that my solution won't be used at all. And this is something that we must take into consideration, absolutely. And we must be extremely clear in clarifying what kind of mitigation and recovery measures we are going to take in order to be consistent with the requirements and ready to remove the barriers which basically are in front of us in terms of use. Okay, any question until now?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Yep.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, because everything you're saying is like very tailored to innovation actions, maybe which have higher TRL. But when you're working in a proposal, developing a research and innovation action, it's way harder to see the benefit or the outcome, and also the early adopters, because they're more focused on the research itself. Then how to better approach this would be my question. Should we approach research and innovation actions under the same scope?
Let's say that the approach is always the same. I'm sharing with you an example. If we have something which is very related to research, even with a very low TRL, you should somehow image an exploitation activities for, let's call it a data set, a methodology. Okay, even if your, let's call it market is future research, what we have shared right now is always in the place on the table, because if you are a research team interested in a previous, for example, data set deriving from a research activity, this kind of data set should be extremely connected with your needs. If we are not working for making the data set that we basically gathered, you probably could not be so interested in using what we developed with a very low TRL. So having a problem-oriented, we can say, let's say a demand driven, because it can be you can be the demand okay of that kind of key exploitable result, can be very can become really problematic in securing the use low TRL research-based key exploitable result. Okay, so it is real also for a policy. It is real also for whatever of key exploitable result you are developing. The main point is, how can I secure the use of my results? If you are really close to the market, and when I say exploitation, I won't say market or commercial exploitation or use. I always say use, okay? And when we talk about use, if we have a clear perspective towards this kind of use, this approach in securing the use of your low TRL result are always related are always important, because otherwise, if we start working on something which low TRL without looking at basically the adoption side, we can risk to fail the adoption of our solution, blocking the pathway towards impact. Outcomes, as I said before, is something related to adoption, and in order to make the adoption a clear, basically, output of exploitation and dissemination, you have to cope with the potential adopters are expecting from your solution. And the process is always the same: having feedback from future user or adopters, having a clear understanding of what your key exploitable result must be developed for, and as I said before, is a mindset shift. Okay, you can also work with low TRL results, but you must have a clear understanding of what will happen after your research activity. Also because it becomes difficult to clarify the steps that you have to take after the project ends in order to secure the use. Okay, so the main we can say focus is how to secure the use of your results, no matter the TRL that you are working with. Okay, yes, please, Tanya. I don't know if I clarified my mind. If it's not clear, feel free to ask. No problem
I
at all.
would like to follow up on that, actually, because you asked about Horizon research and innovation actions compared to innovation actions. But this webinar is also for the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, where we have maybe a bit more flexible approach. But I would say that if you have a research funding instrument that requires exploitation, and Antonello, correct me if I'm wrong, but if the instrument requires exploitation, then that is an instrument that requires that you somehow think about and understand and identify the route, journey from your research to the use, whatever kind of use. It can be used by an academic partner, like you said, or it can be used by a policymaker or education, or it can be an innovation. As Antonello said, it doesn't matter, but you have to do the work to understand how eventually your work will contribute to some sort of impact in society. So exploitation is a lot about impact. So some national funding instruments may not require that. They may be about really basic research that doesn't really look to do anything other than produce results without thinking anything other than academic publications, which is fine, absolutely fine. But if you have a funding instrument that requires exploitation, then you have to figure out the journey from your work to eventual impact in society. And then the exploitation is about understanding who will use your results at what point. And it's not an easy exercise at all. It's not easy. So very few researchers are automatically in the know. You know, they don't know how it gets to the adopted by society in any way. So it's difficult, but it really doesn't depend on the TRL.
Yes, if I may add something, when I talk about exploitation, I always say that taking a result for future research, so typically what happens in a research innovation action, okay, because we have a low TRL, or even in an ERC, and taking what is you are developing, okay, a very low TRL, and taking your results for future research is exploitation, is use. Okay, so given that I have shared something about ERC, even in the ERC proof of concept, so TRL 1, 2, 3, not higher, there is a paragraph where you have to talk about I risk, I gain. Okay, and when you say I risk, I gain, you have to outline the future use. You say, okay, this is the risk that is something that is not it cannot work at all. Okay, but if it works, okay, there will be this amazing gain, and this is basically an outline. It is outlining the impact at the end of the day. So let's always think about the use of your results after the project ends. This would be exploitation. The core of your exploitation plan, taking into consideration what we have discussed until now, is to minimize the risk of not using your solution at all. Okay, and in order to minimize this risk, you have to take into consideration, you should take into consideration all the different elements that we have shared until now. So who can be the adopter? Because if the adopter is in another research group, this research group could be involved, okay, in order to express the interest for the solution, for the key exploitable result that you are developing. So let's think always about in terms of use, okay? And if you start with this approach, you will see that basically you would you will be developing with an impact-oriented perspective your key exploitable result. I don't know if I could clarify my mind, but this is quite important.
Yeah, I think this is good, but I'm a little mindful about the time. We are now closing to 90 minutes, and so I think we have to move forward. Maybe we have half an hour left or something like that. So
yeah. Okay. So I would go on with our exercise. You can see some basic instructions here. We will work with Slido. Then I would provide you 3-5 minutes for answering, and then we would pick up some select some answers in order to share some feedback. Okay, so this is the first case study. There is a technical key exploitable result, so a smart energy monitoring sensor. You can see the description. There is a research team developing a smart energy monitoring sensor for industrial applications. It performs real-time diagnostic, high frequencies data capture, and integrates the AI-driven anomaly detection. So from an exploitation point of view, this key exploitable result is an innovation, but has different challenges to cope with. For the integration with other systems and also in terms of certification. You can see that if I cannot integrate my monitoring system properly with existing systems, obviously the use of my solution can be somehow not really interesting. And if I have no all certification, basically there could be the case that this cannot be used at all. So there could be the exploitation plan can focus on the co-development with the original equipment manufacturers. There can be some pilot installations in energy-intensive facilities, and there could be a certification pathways to ensure the adoption and scalabilities. Having these, we can say, framework, here you can find your first, this is not shared with Slido, so I have to stop sharing because probably once I shared before, it was not the case. Just a second.
Oh, can we get
Sorry.
the code for the Slido?
No. It's
No.
it's easier. It's
Okay.
it's easier. You can see my presentation. I reach this. It's easier. I'm against animation. Okay, here we are.
We don't yet see.
I can see that you can you see my screen?
Not yet.
No.
Not yet. Okay. Are you seeing it?
No, unfortunately not.
Oh, this is strange. Okay. Let's do. Okay. Here we are. I'm solving it. Okay, I have to share my screen. You should see my screen.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Okay, here we are. So you could catch the QR code, and the question is quite easy. Based on the smart energy monitoring sensor case, you should somehow prioritize your exploitation strategy. There are different options here. Partnership with original equipment manufacturers for joint development, industrial certification for regulatory alignment, piloting with large industry users to validate the return of investment, building a strong UVP for system integrators, creating market awareness and early viability. So choose two priorities and briefly describe the reason why. as we said before, the most critical problems here were related to integration and certification regulation, integration with other system and certification and regulation. So let's try to pick up the two best options amongst all these exploitation strategies, exploitation activities, and try to explain the reason why you selected them. I can see that you are typing. Two. Okay. Okay. So okay. We can see that one probably solved integration issues, and 5 and 2. Let's share for a while. Then there is 2 because there is certification criticalities, and 3 for integration, 1 for interoperability. Okay. Let's wait for 10, 12 answers. Don't be shy. It's a way for discussing a little bit. Option 2. Option 5. Okay. Let's collect 10 feedback from 10 people, and then let's share a little bit. Power organization 5, 3 to see how this result can have a use in reality. Market needs, production capability. Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit my ideas. As you can see, all of these activities and strategies must be somehow part in an exploitation plan. Nevertheless, the use case shares clearly two main problems. Okay, the first one with basically the integration with other systems, and the other one is the problem related to regulations and certification. So from my point of view, the most I agree with those who selected basically the point 1 and 2. Why? Because the point 1 allow us to work on integration, okay? And the point 2, because if I work closely and if I have a partnership with original equipment manufacturers in order to understand how my solution can be integrated with the existing system, I can overcome this kind of problem. And the part 2, and we can say the point 2 is extremely important to me, because if I have a problem to understand if I am completely compliant with certification and standards and basically if I am aligned with these kind of regulations, these basically work on industrial certification regulation allow me to be extremely basically ready for be consistent with these requirements and be ready for the adoption and for the market of the new solution. The point 3, 4, and 5 are crucial, okay, but being a clear understanding of my main problems related to future exploitation, so integration and certification, from my point of view, the most we can say the strongest activities that I have to underline in my exploitation strategy are connected with the point 1 and point 2. Let's see the next case study. There is a business KER, and this is a digital platform for energy communities. Now, the description, the project, one of the key exploitable results of the project is this digital platform, enabling energy communities to track consumptions, to manage peer-to-peer energy trading, and optimize local production via data analytics. Now, we have some issues on exploitation side. Though market ready, adoption is slowed by regulatory complexity and unclear value perception from municipalities and cooperatives that can be the adopters of the solution. So even if users engagement potential. If we look at this exploitation point of view, there is a strategic point, a strategic angle to be taken into consideration, that the exploitation strategy focus on defining a unique value proposition for public and semi-public adopters, demonstrating the economic benefit and pursuing the partnership with municipalities. Now, as you can see, the focus is on the unique value proposition in order to better explain the reason why this new solution is really important, can be really useful in comparison with the existing one. Now, in the digital platform for energy community case, which strategy would best support the early adoption by municipalities and cooperatives? So we keep working on UVP and different public actors. We can pilot the platform with local energy cooperative. We can engage policymakers to address regulatory barriers, offer flexible business models and funding options, or highlight environmental and social impact in communication. Select one strategy and try to explain briefly the reason why and how it improves the exploitation plan. The process is always the same. And obviously, if you have any question, feel free to share. 1 and 3. So the UVP and engage policymakers. 3 and 4, policymakers and business model. 3 was the key problem. 2, 3, okay. By now, the pilot and the engagement of policymakers are the most interesting options. Let's achieve an answer, then we will share. 3, So policymakers. Three. Okay, 3 and 4. Flexible business model. 1 and 3. So from my point of view, the most interesting point is that each of you, starting from the experience that you gain during your professional lifetime and has clear priorities, and this is extremely important, and this is the added value that you can somehow put in the exploitation strategy, exploitation plans of your project. Now, 10 answers we achieve. Option 5 seems more important than the rest in this case, but not very sure. Option 4 is reasonable. Let's see here. I step back for a while. Sorry. So the problem is no, the not target commercial use, but so the point for the commercial use is not so relevant. Okay, so sorry, I made a mistake. The market-ready adoption is slowed down by regulatory complexity and unclear value for perception. And so, obviously, the tree must be the option 3 must be part in the exploitation strategy. Okay, because we should somehow ease, okay, the framework, the regulatory framework that allow the use of my solution. But I would also try to make the value of the new solution clearer through a pilot, okay? Because we can work on defining a UVP, but the problem here is they do not see the real problem behind the absence of a solution working on this. So from my point of view, if we involve local energy cooperatives, local actors, so people working with this novel solution, clarifying, okay, the added value provided with the new solution, with the novel solution. From my point of view, they can see that they are working, that they have suffering a real problem that can be solved by a novel solution. So from my point of view, the 2 and 3 can be the most crucial activities that can be included in our exploitation strategy. Let me be clear. All of them are important. Okay, so we are just trying to focus on the most critical options in the light of what we are experiencing during the project lifetime. This exercise is always helpful because it allows us to understand, to clarify how can be important in addressing these issues during the project lifetime. So during the development of the solution, I can understand that I could have problems in making my solution available to potential adopters. These problems can be focused on regulations, can be focused on the business model, can be focused on the perception of the problem that I am confronting with. So it is crucial in our exploitation strategy to provide solutions, to provide strategies, to provide actions on how to cope with these kind of problems in order to reduce, to minimize the risk of not adoption of my solution. Yes, please, Tanya.
Yes, I was wondering, the evaluators of exploitation plans in, let's say, Clean Energy Transition Partnership or Horizon Europe are probably not so, or I would be surprised if they were able to evaluate a choice like this as well as you can. But I guess what you're trying to say, or the way I understand it, is that it is important to think about this so that the innovation or the research itself will be able to overcome the most likely problems it will face. So it's important from the consortium's point of view, not just from an evaluator's point of view. So don't just do this in order to get good marks in your evaluation, but really because it's for your own benefit.
Exactly. Right? Let's start, Tanya, saying that each of us participates in a project not only for the, let's be brutal, for the funding. You are participating in a project because you have a strategic interest in developing a result, developing something which can be part in your, we can say, strategic basically interest in your strategic portfolio of activities. So it's something which is strategic for you and for your organization. Starting from this point of view, for this starting point, obviously what you are developing during the project lifetime should be somehow something that you are interested in making available after the project ends. And if we do, when we work, when we carry out exploitation activities, if we take into consideration what can be the different problems that we have to cope with in order to make our solution viable, okay, and usable after the project lifetime, this is obviously the main concern that we have to have. Okay, so let's focus on what will happen after the project end. Let's focus on what problems we have to face in order to basically be ready to make that novel solution really strategic for you and for your organization, not only for evaluation purposes. Okay, so this is the reason why we have to implement exploitation strategies with this approach. Okay, it is not just something related to evaluation, as Tanya is saying. It's something related to the fact that at the end of the day, this will be crucial for your organization, for your activities. Okay, so and if it doesn't work, there won't be any future. We must be ready to take into consideration everything could somehow hinder the use of your solution. Okay. Let's go for the next case study. In this case, we have another different key exploitable result. So a guideline for local energy market integration. And in this case, the project produced a set of policy guidelines aimed at supporting integration of local energy market with regional and national regulatory frameworks. These guidelines address legal gaps, standardization needs, and institutional barriers. Now, we developed these key exploitable results, and looking at exploitation, we know that there is no commercial use, and this is important because we have a non-commercial key exploitable result, but we have to exploit it anyway. So there is no commercial use, but plays a crucial role in shaping the enabling environment. So its value lies on influencing policymakers, regulators, and public administrators to adopt reforms that unlock innovation deployment. So from a strategic angle, we can say that exploitation plan focus on stakeholder engagement policy dialogue and alignment with ongoing regulatory consultation, partnership with public bodies, think tanks, and standardization agency are a key for the fusion and the uptake. Now, which exploitation strategy would most effectively support the uptake and the impact? We read that obviously we are trying to establish contacts with policymakers and other actors that can ease the adoption of these guidelines. So option 1, establishing alliances with regulatory bodies, a national agency, publish white papers and policy brief on high-level visibility, engage in working groups or consultation at EU regional level, organize workshops with municipalities and public energy actors, translate recommendations into practical implementation roadmap. So try to select 2 actions that can somehow serve the objectives that you are pursuing. As you can see, each of them 1 and 5, so alliances and 5 practical roadmap. Okay, importance of calendar need to be practically achieved. Okay, 1 and 5. I would exploit, let me be very sad in using this word, this time 1 and 4, 2 and 5, saying that as you can see, there are so many different activities that can be included in a exploitation plan, in exploitation strategy. There are 2 main points that I would like to underline. First of all, we must always clarify what we are going to do. Sometimes the question is, but the point is that I was thinking that it was not necessary to share. Okay. No, it is extremely important in an exploitation plan that you explain your strategy, your activities, the reason why you are working with this kind of activities in order to secure the use and to overcome problems related to use. So an exploitation plan must include all these options, and having clear in your mind all the different points that we highlighted before. So who is who in the ecosystem of actors that will be important for using your results, who is going to basically activate the other, what are the relationships in between the different actors. So all these aspects must be taken into consideration in order to say, okay, I know that there are some problems to overcome in order to ease the adoption of my solution. These will be the activities that I'm going to take into consideration, that I'm going to implement during and just after the project ends. So I can see just 8 answers. So basically 1 and 4, establish alliances with regulatory bodies, and 4, organize workshops. Let me say very clearly, publish white papers and organize workshops can be interesting, 2 and 4, but my problem is once published these white papers, how can I secure that they are effectively used, effectively somehow included in the process in order to facilitate the adoption of my guidelines? Once organized these workshops, how can I secure the fact that what has been shared during the workshops could find applications. Okay, so it's always very tricky. Okay, from my point of view, this is just personal, but obviously establish alliances is something very strong. Engage a working group in consultation regionally is more difficult, but could be extremely important. I think that different options here, the 1, the 5, are somehow really important. 5, I think it's yes, it's something very interesting and very important. Okay, so let's go ahead. And before the last exercise we have is a pathway towards impact. And it is the last exercise, as I said before. So let's start from this exercise, this statement. So the one university, okay, received a grant for a research aimed at developing and demonstrating solutions capable of improving the performance of the components of the next generation of battery electric vehicles, power drive. So the expected impact by the donor is to contribute to the transition towards climate neutral and environmentally friendly road mobility through clean solutions in all modes of transport, while increasing the global competitiveness of the EU transport sector. Let's start saying which of these results represent a meaningful key exploitable result. Policy recommendation, new silicon carbide, SiC, module TRL6, and improved thermal performance, less 30%, and resistance plus 50% of such modules. So, which of these results represent a meaningful key exploitable result? Let's vote. Let's wait until 10 answers. Then we can disclose the results. 4, 5, 2 more. We are 5 of them, of us. 6, 7, 8, 9. So we achieved 10. Okay, new silicon carbide, so SiC module, TRL. As you can see, we are talking about components, so it cannot be policy recommendations. And why we are not saying that improved thermal performance and resistance of such models is not a key exploitable result? Because these are features of the novel solution. This is not the solution. This is basically part in the unique value proposition. This is the reason why at the end of the process, a potential adopter should adopt my solution instead of keep using the alternative solutions available on the shelf. Now, which of these use model best fits for this care? Non-exclusive licensing, creation of a pilot at a production line, a demonstrator, open access publication of an article in a renowned scientific journal. Let's see the answers. Please vote. Four, 5, 7, 8. Okay. A non-exclusive licensing is, from my point of view, the best option here, because an open access publication is not a way for using, okay? It is a dissemination action. Creation of pilot of a pilot production line is for a university is completely out of scope, because you know you should have a production line and in order to demonstrate how to produce this new component. The best way is to have an indirect use model agreeing on non-exclusive licensing with some potential adopters. We will see who they are in a few minutes. Now, what knowledge protection measure do we plan? Industrial secrecy, patent, or copyright? Please vote. 3, 5, 6, 7. Last one. Okay. Let's see. Patent. This is a patent, not a copyright, because copyright is something that we can basically adopt when we are for a publication, for example, for intellectual output, we can say. Okay. Who are the early adopters? So car manufacturers, team of researchers in automotive electrochemical engineer, car drivers, original equipment manufacturers. Let's see the answer. 1, 2, take a look live at what is going on. Sorry. Okay. Let's say that the answer is the original equipment manufacturers, okay? Because they are not the team of researchers, because the TRL is quite high, 6. And obviously, the point is to not to complete the research part, but to complete the business related part. So at this point, the original equipment manufacturers should take the lead of the process. So what can be the dissemination channels? How we can achieve them? Publication of an article, participation in the International Electric Vehicle Symposium Conference, direct contacts with main operators in the sectors, news in the news area of the project website. Please vote. 1, 2. Let's see. Okay. Good. So direct contacts with operators. Obviously, you have to put in place all the contacts you have with all in the sectors, and the participation in a symposium, in a conference, could be not so effective, because you have to participate, you have to establish a contact, you have to start to having the chance to share what you are doing. So probably establishing direct contacts with the operators is the best options amongst the ones listed there. What kind of outcome can we achieve? A new generation of more economical and high-performance electric cars. Recognition to the university belonging top 10 European player for research in the field. The new siege model is adopted by 10 European components company for automotive sector. Let's see. Please vote. Okay, so the point is exactly the adoption. Okay, in that case, so the new module, our Key Exploitable Result is adopted, and this adoption means that this result is used somehow by the potential adopters that can secure the use also in the future in order to unleash an impact. Pay attention, from now on, the control of the exploitable result owner is over. And the scale up is what could or would be the best scenario in front of us. So once transferred the knowledge on the market secured, the university has completed the mission. Having adopted a non-exclusive licensing use model, university will continue to disseminate the key exploitable result, opening future market opportunities. The 10 adopter companies invest in sales networks to acquire market shares outside Europe, transfer the technology to other operators. What do you think will be the potential scenario at this point? One, three, four, let's see. The point is to create a market here, okay? So, so the main option is then the adopters start working on the same network to establish a strong market where they can basically use their novel solution. And what impact can I expect? The European industry is gaining market share in the battery electric vehicle sector. 30% reduction in pollution from vehicular traffic. European citizens who use cars for their travels understand the importance of European investments in research and innovation to achieve a climate objective set in the European Green Deal. Let's see the answer. What kind of benefits we can have through the use of this new component. I would disclose it for you. Is the fact that there is a 30% reduction of the pollution. There also could be that European industry is gaining market share in battery electric vehicle, but we can say that the first option is that we have something significant in terms of reduction of pollution, and this can also be consistent. This is also consistent with what the call is asking for. Okay, and as you can see, this is the pathway, and in your exploitation plan, taking into consideration all the different aspects that we shared before, you can also have in mind to share all these kind of information. Just few remarks for before closing. Not starting exploitation too late. Not focusing so only on users. So try to understand all the different actors involved in the exploitation process. Have a strong value proposition. So involve early adopters in order to validate the real advantages that your solution can somehow share with the potential market of your solution. Avoid some errors, so underestimate the impact, underestimate and also having a wrong meaning of the impact. Understand the differences between dissemination, communication, and exploitation. Always work with clear impact indicators as a projection of what you can have with a single result. Have always a clear target group analysis, design a dissemination strategy, and always have in mind your exploitation pathway. You could find some useful table that you can use both at proposal and project management level, where you can somehow align different information on exploitation and dissemination. As you can see, for example, you can find that starting from each key exploitable result, you can have all the main developer, the exploiter, the way of protection, the exploitation intention. So how you would like to use your key exploitable result and the potential early adopters. Here you have a dissemination and a communication table, and you can see that the difference in between dissemination and communication tables are on the first column, where when we talk about dissemination, you have to disseminate the key exploitable result. When you talk about communication, you just share activities for targeting basically a general audience that can be interested in your project and your activities. And please remember, if there is no use, there is no impact. So always find a way for securing the use. I don't know if we have any question. I am stop sharing, and from my side, that's all.
Thank you very, very much, Antonella. We went a little over time, but I think it was worth it. The exercises were really, really good. So if there are any questions at this point, we can still take them. Maybe that we don't have questions at the moment. I thought this was really good. One thing it was good that you kind of emphasized that at a certain point, the control is out of the original research team. There happens a handover, a technology transfer to the company that will then develop the whole thing further and make sure that it will be adopted by and take it to the market, really. Of course, for instance, in Clean Energy Transition Partnership or in Horizon Europe Innovation Actions particularly, you can have that company as a beneficiary getting the funding. So it's yes, but you have to be aware that it has to be a company at some point that takes the innovation to market, and it cannot be the research organization. It can participate pretty much at every point, but still it's a different, there's a role difference between these two, and that is something really important to understand in the exploitation plan. And maybe my main comment is that what I have found working with impact and exploitation in the Clean Energy Transition Partnership is that it's the whole chain, as I mentioned before, from the lab to market is very difficult to understand if you are a researcher, because then your job is to do research. It's not your job to think about business issues and market shares and all of those things. But the exploitation plan actually requires that you get at least some sort of a basic understanding of what it takes. For instance, a big demonstration project requires investments from the private sector, and it requires that there is a company leading the way. So you cannot say that you are going to do a demonstration within a project. Well, you can, but then it's in the lab, you know. So there are different levels of demonstration, different levels of simply like volume, what you're producing, and whether you or not you need to build, let's say, your first of a kind factory or something. That's a completely different story from doing a demonstration from a technical point of view in a lab. So things like that are difficult for people to necessarily discern when they haven't been. Yeah.
Let's say, Tanya, that this is the reason why that a consortium with a strong multidisciplinarity is an added value, okay?
Yeah.
Because you can put together different expertise, and there is the one partner more experienced in research, and the other one also extracting the most from the research, saying, okay, please help me in understanding your word in order to create the best exploitation strategy possible. And I think that it is a real added value of a good partnership. So it must be balanced also from this point of view, okay? And I think that is a real added value that we have to take always into consideration.
Indeed. There is one question in the chat.
Yeah.
Let's say one team has 4 workers, another team has 10 workers. How can I reach 25% workload in each partner? Can I add one partner from one country to under other countries' rules? So this is probably about the Clean Energy Transition Partnership, because it has these national funding agencies co-funding everything. Yes. So this is a question you have to take up with the call management team. So I am from the impact and exploitation team, and I cannot unfortunately answer this question. So this is a technical question related to the call rules. But yeah, I think we have to wrap this up now. Thank you very much. And this webinar, as the previous ones, will be found in the Impact Library and in the CET Partnership YouTube channel. In the chat, you have the links to those, and you can simply find them from CET Partnership website. But thank you very much, Antonello. Thank you, audience. And I wish you a nice evening.
Okay, thank you so much. And from my side, if you have any question, I'm available also by mail. Okay, so
thank you.
bye.